What's good, football fans? Back at you once again with another video. And my apologies for missing last week as I had an unexpected situation come up. But I'm back this week, so without further ado, let's dive right into the picks. First game, Thursday Night Football between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Good old-fashioned NFC East rivalry. Well, that is depending on how you look at the East at this point. Because the NFC East at this point is just, your first place team is the Dallas Cowboys and they're 2-4. You're looking at a division that has the most Super Bowls from top to bottom. Everybody's got at least one, with the Eagles having the least amount with one. But when you really look at this game on a level of how they've done towards each other recently, the Eagles have beaten the Giants 6 times in a row. And truth be told, the Giants have only beaten the Eagles 4 times, since it turned 2010. Let's just go ahead and look at that. And you could go even further and talk about the 2000s ahead of 2010s, and you would see a definite pattern between these two teams. Truth is, this rivalry has kind of hit the skids for the Giants. Now, while some younger Giant fans may dislike the Cowboys more, this is definitely the old school rivalry with these two teams. That said, in terms of these two teams, I have to say that the Eagles have been the bigger disappointment this season, as nobody really expected the Giants to do anything, and then Saquon Barkley got hurt as well. Daniel Jones has struggled. His turnovers have been costly, and that offense at times has been non-existent. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles have just, they've had problems all over the place. Injuries, personnel issues, Carson Wentz playing poorly, the offensive line being hurt, pretty much dismantled. And while on paper, this game right here would appear to be a game that the Giants will be able to get back on track with this rivalry, but I just don't see it. I'm picking the Eagles. They just own the Giants right now. And I know Giants fans are not going to like hearing me say that, but they just own the New York Giants right now. There's no other way to put it. Now, the next game I'm going to look at is likely the game of the week between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. Two undefeated football teams that, dare I say, have taken a good portion of fans in the league by storm. Now, everybody knew the Titans had a good package over there, especially with Derrick Henry and just, the man's nasty when he's carrying the ball. Last week, he just went crazy. And the Steelers, who just have an unreal defense. And people always tell the story of Pittsburgh, and it's always defense. And this year is no different. This certainly is a tough game for me to decide on which team I think has the upper hand. I could definitely say that if the Titans come in and Derrick Henry does what, he continues to do to a lot of teams in the NFL, they're going to win hands down. But then again, you're looking at the Pittsburgh defense. You're not looking at just anybody else, The Titans fans may get a little angry with me, but I feel like it's going to be the Steelers in this game just because, that defense mixed with that emerging, that offensive weaponry they got going on over there. I believe the Steelers could be a dangerous team this year. I'm taking Pittsburgh. Now, the next game is between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. This is an old school rivalry here, and this used to be basically the best rivalry in football between the Redskins and the Cowboys. For years, people with no attachment to this rivalry at all would always tune in to catch these two teams going at it, knowing that these guys have a storied rivalry and that these two teams just don't like each other. But in the last few years, you can kind of feel like this rivalry has kind of dried up quite a bit. And then with the changing of the name, I don't know if maybe there's a little bit of a difference here going on. I noticed that Coach Ron Rivera had spoke earlier this week about it kind of being weird when it came to the rivalry. But I agree, but I think that's more so because of the name being changed. And then obviously, the pandemic going on, it changes things a bit when you're talking about a rival, team playing each other. And it's generally about the fans and what the fans feel, and being the fact that the fans are not going to be in attendance, I think it's just going to be a small amount, and it's just going to be family only. I don't think that's going to play a big factor into this one, but this is going to be another one of those games where you got teams on opposite ends of things. Like, for instance, the Cowboys have the number one offense in the game, but have one of the worst defenses, whereas Washington can't find their offense and has a defense that's kind of ranking towards, I'm going to say, just outside the top 10, 10, 11-ish. They were inside of the top 10 until a couple weeks ago, and they've been spilling over with allowing a lot of points lately. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about last week. They only allowed 20 against the Giants. But Washington's a team still searching for an identity, and the Cowboys have owned this rivalry as of late. Now, one thing in favor for Washington is at this point right now, the Cowboys are also searching for an identity with Andy Dalton in at quarterback. You know, their complete system was geared towards Dak Prescott, and Andy Dalton is no Dak Prescott. Now, I know that everybody's been beating up on Dak for years, but Andy Dalton is not better. Of course, I'm not coming out of here with breaking news or anything right now. Everybody already knows this. The point is that number one ranking may be a little suspect in terms of where they actually are as of right now. One thing I noticed that was kind of odd last week watching the Cowboys play, their offensive line is nowhere near what it used to be. They have a lot of injuries going on. They had another one last week, and they have a lot of players that you're not even going to recognize unless you know the Cowboys as far as watching them daily. And then Zeke Elliott fumbled twice last week in a football game. I don't think that's ever happened in his career. As a matter of fact, I think I read somewhere that before that he had never fumbled maybe twice in a season before. So I think that's an oddity. It's not going to continue. I heard a couple people kind of breaking, some jokes on him or whatever, but that's not going to continue. I feel like the Cowboys are probably going to try to find a way to get a play action game going on against Washington, who has been susceptible to that all season long against every team they played. I don't know if anybody would deem my pick an upset at this point, since this is a 2-4 team against a 1-5 team, but something's telling me that Washington wins this football game, so I'm picking Washington. The next game is between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. And the more I watch the Jets this season, the more I think that the Jets are not going to win a single football game. They literally have one shining light, Jamison Crowder. That is it. Le'Veon Bell never worked out, so it didn't really surprise me that they cut him. They were like a team with a whole bunch of money that needed to just spend all that money for some reason because they've held on to it for 2 or 3 years. They couldn't spend it on nobody else, so they just threw it at Bell. He never fit the system. He never fit the scheme. He never fit any of it. Now you're going to see him really probably do pretty decent things with the Chiefs. Now he's going to have to fit a system instead of being a single, star in a team-oriented environment. He's going to have to be a systematic back over there with Kansas City. I mean, Andy Reid can do big things with running backs. He can. But you have to give in to the fact that you're part of the system. I feel like that was a win-win for Kansas City to pick him up. But anyway, the Bills and the Jets, I don't even really think this is much of a conversation at this point. The Jets are so openly tanking it's not even funny. My guess would be that they're going to go for Trevor Lawrence next year. I heard a couple people say that they were going to stick with Sam Darnold. I don't know. I guess that'll remain to be seen. They pick first next year. To me, it'll be hard for them to pass on Lawrence. I'm picking Buffalo. Now, the next game is going to be between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. And in my opinion, Carolina has been one of the surprise teams of the year. Matt Rule has that team playing each and every weekend. I've been surprised with the way that their offense has moved the ball. Their defense has been pretty good. I didn't expect them to win this many games in the first 6 games with a brand new, coaching staff, brand new setup over there. They're doing well, I would say. Now, playing against the New Orleans Saints may not be the best thing for them at this point. This is a game where you got a 6th-ranked offense against a 2nd-ranked defense. Something's got to give, right? One thing I will say is I've noticed Drew Brees, I'm not going to say has slipped a little bit, but that offense is not hitting the same way it did in years past. They've been dealing without Michael Thomas now for a couple weeks, or been dealing, I think they had him for 1 week, but they've been without him for a few. And that offense has missed him. I mean, the way I feel is, Drew Brees is real pass heavy to him, all the time. But when he's active, I feel like everybody else is, more successful in their roles because the defense all turns their eyes on him. I feel like this is a game the Saints win. I'm taking New Orleans. The next game is between the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Texans. Before last weekend, I would have told you that Green Bay might have been either the best football team in the game right now or definitely in the top 3. And then I saw Tampa Bay just walk the dog against them. So I'm looking at them now, and I'm wondering if Tampa Bay is really that good or if Green Bay may not be as good as I thought they were. Now, the thing that I see when I look at Houston is a letdown. I really like Deshaun Watson, and I feel like they failed him as an organization. They have failed to surround him with the correct amount of talent. They had DeAndre Hopkins, but for some reason their now former coach and former GM decided that he wasn't going to even attempt to, pay the man. Now, I've been told by several Texans fans that Hopkins probably wouldn't have signed the new deal because he wanted some outrageous contract, and we saw what he got in Arizona, so now we know that it was an outrageous amount of money, that it was basically quarterback money. In the process, though, the Texans went from a contender to a team that is going to be at the bottom of the heap or the top of the heap, however you look at it, for the draft next year. And they need weapons on both sides of the ball. Now, Watson is still doing his thing. I mean, to me, he's, if not the most intelligent quarterback in the game, he's definitely in the top 3. But they have no rushing attack. No rushing attack. None. Granted, a lot of that's probably because they've spent a lot of time coming from behind, and they've been trying to throw the ball more than they probably ever have imagined they would. But it's been a long time since I said the Texans had one of the worst defenses in the league. They're generally a defensive-minded football club. That said, I'm taking the Packers. The next game's going to be between the Browns and the Bengals, the Battle of Ohio. And on paper, you would think that Cleveland really would have the upper hand going into this game, and, their number one rushing attack would be able to just do whatever they wanted here. And normally I would say that would be the case, but something just telling me that this Bengals team is just an upstart bunch that's just ready to, surprise some people. And I also think the Browns are just ripe to be, upset. Baker Mayfield has not looked real good this season, but their offense has been set up for him to be more of a play-action quarterback. So those looking for the big stat numbers with him are not really going to see it unless he's playing from behind and his offensive line does their job. Now, I think Cleveland is better than what they looked like last week because the Steelers are just a really good football team, or just really good on defense at this point. But the way to beat Cleveland is to take away their running attack and make them beat you with the pass. Make Baker Mayfield beat you. That's what this game's going to come down to. Can Cincinnati make Baker Mayfield try to force things towards the end of the football game and, put them in a situation where they can get an interception or two and maybe change the tides of things? That said, I'm taking the Browns. Now, the next game is between the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons. Two teams that probably felt like they were going to be a little bit better than their record shows this season, especially in the Falcons situation. Atlanta continues to be a top-notch offense. They have weapons. Maybe they've built their team where they have too many weapons offensively, and they haven't really done as much defensively as they should. One could make that argument. Whereas on the other side of things with the Lions, Matt Patricia took over, and he hasn't even outdone the guy who he took over for. Jim Caldwell was actually doing better than what the Lions have done since Patricia took over as coach. In my opinion, that should put Patricia on the hot seat, but at this point, their management has been pretty understanding. That said, I feel like Matt Stafford is a good enough quarterback to be able to steer an offense to where they need to be. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't follow the Lions daily, but I feel like they've been a little bit of a letdown offensively. I view this game as a game that Atlanta's going to have a tough time trying to establish their passing attack. I feel like Matt Stafford's probably going to get his opportunity to take control of this game somewhere in the second half. And I'm taking the Lions. Now, the next game is between the Jaguars and the Chargers. Two teams that I have had an equal amount of problems predicting this season. And I'm just going to be honest, I have absolutely no clue who's going to win this game. And just for shits and giggles, I'm picking the Chargers. Now, the next game is between the 49ers and the Patriots. Two teams that have underachieved this year, but have extenuating circumstances as to why. Now, both of these teams can still turn things around. I mean, especially in terms of the Patriots, who have been dealt a rough hand due to the COVID situation. The Niners have had all kinds of injuries, and they've still stayed kind of a mid-tier to upper-tier type team. What most people have seen is under Bill Belichick, it's always going to be a defensive approach. And what Cam Newton brings to the field when he's playing is a running game. Now, on the other side of the pendulum, the Niners, they run by a system. They run by a running back by committee. They run that Shanahan scheme, that zone blocking scheme. He's become a master of it. His dad was a master of it. But Kyle Shanahan is going to put together a game plan where he's going to try to pick the Patriots to death with a running attack and then play action passing. I'm expecting a pretty good game out of this one, a defensive game. I think the Patriots will have problems trying to score in this game. I'm taking the Niners. The next game's between the Chiefs and the Broncos, good old-fashioned AFC West hate. But I'm still going to say it, even with the Broncos winning last week, this is like the difference of looking at night and day. And I think Bronco fans will probably be a little upset with me, but they also understand what I'm trying to say here. The Chiefs are still somewhere riding in the sky, so to speak, off of what they've done in the last year and a half. They have the best player in the game right now, in the best system, on the best team, with the best coach. Until someone knocks them off their pedestal, it's going to be tough for me to pick against them any week of the year. Now, the Broncos have had problems putting points on the board. Week after week, their defense shows up, but gets caught on the field a lot and has issues like that. That said, I don't see the Chiefs losing here. I'm taking Kansas City. Now, the next game is between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chucky Bowl, the John Gruden Bowl, if you would. And folks, I think that Tampa Bay is hitting their stride right now. Like, the team we saw last week is what a lot of people were envisioning they were going to see this season. Their defense is what paddles the boat, okay? Their defense is the main thing. They're what keeps everything going. But that offense is starting to hit its stride and starting to click. You know, Gronkowski missed a lot of time off football. I think he's starting to get back in football shape now, or getting, football mindset. And Tom Brady is just starting to get used to that system and the way the things are going for him. And I'm not really sure if he was really comfortable until now, but that team is starting to click. And on the other side of things, I think the Raiders are better than a lot of people thought they would be this year. John Gruden had a plan, and he's really going to work with that team. I think that they have some really good weapons over there. I don't know fully if Derek Carr is the guy quite yet. That still hasn't been proven, but they're 3-2 for a reason. You take all of that and mix it up, and I got the Bucs winning this game. The next game's between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Seahawks have been relentless this year, especially on offense. Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf have been one of the top, if not the top, 1-2 punch in the league this season. Personally, I think Russell Wilson definitely is the MVP of the year so far. And they're coming off a bye week, so they're well rested. And they're going against an Arizona team that really came out the gate hot and then faltered a little bit, but it's still sitting there at 4-2. But I feel like maybe they've taken a step back a little bit on defense where they thought they were to begin with. But the question you got to ask yourself is, how much of a factor will Kyler Murray be in this game? And if the answer's a lot, then you're going to see a shootout. There's a big potential for a lot of points to go on the board in this football game right here. Both teams have big ball targets. DeAndre Hopkins on one side, DK Metcalf on the other. I feel like the Seahawks probably have a couple more weapons than the Cardinals have, but both teams have speed. And both teams have decent running backs, too. Now, Carson for the Seahawks has always been a little bit underrated in my book. But I can see this game being decided deep in the fourth quarter. And until they get beat, I'm sticking with the hot hand, and that's Russell Wilson. I'm taking the Seahawks. The last game of the week is between the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams. Monday Night Football. And in my opinion, the Bears have been the most surprising football team that there has been in the entire league this year. They're a 5-1 team with literally nothing special to talk about, which is actually great. I mean, I love that because that shows me that they're a full, all-around good team. And they know how to win football games. And some people can say, well, they've gotten lucky too. Yeah, maybe. Philly fans would probably tell you it's Nick Foles, and I'm being honest there. And then you take and flip and look at the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams, I know that they don't have the best record in the league at this point, but the Rams should really be viewed as one of the top teams out there. On both sides of the ball, they really are a really good all-around football team. When healthy, their defensive line is so disruptive that you can't do anything. Aaron Donald is the man. And on offense, they've carved out their own little special little brand now with the multi-back system and Jared Goff doing what he does, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. I'm impressed with what Sean McVay has done in a small amount of time in LA. And I'm actually impressed that they were able to jump back into things post Todd Gurley, especially in a tough NFC West. which may be the toughest division in football. That said, I think this matchup truly favors LA. I feel like Chicago is going to do their normal little thing and play gritty football and keep it tight with the first half, and then the Rams are going to pull away in the second, and I'm taking LA. So for the week, I got the Eagles over the Giants, the Lions over the Falcons, the Bills over the Jets, the Browns over the Bengals, Washington over Dallas, Green Bay over the Texans, Saints over the Panthers, the Steelers over the Titans, the Bucks over the Raiders, the Chiefs over the Broncos, the 49ers over the Patriots, the Chargers over the Jags, the Seahawks over the Cardinals, and the Rams over the Bears. And something tells me this is going to be a pretty good week of football. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But anyway, let me know what your picks are for the week down below in the comments. Y'all take it easy. Peace.